Here's some amazing lessons from successful entrepreneurs. Let's get into the first one.
What are some of the tools and tactics you've learned to build up your business?
Be original. And when I say original, that means narrating your content, your message in a way that's unique and that's different from everybody else. Number two, being...
There's a big difference between growing your company and scaling your company. I think a lot of founders gotta, especially if you're gonna go talk to VCs and things like this, like you gotta know the terminology because VCs will sniff that out real quick. So
once we integrate that feature, once I was got on TikTok, studied what a common problem is, and I figured out how we can fix it or automate it and repurpose, I started going in and commenting on other people's videos.
You're doing things that don't scale.
Yeah, exactly. I was doing things that don't scale. But I think that really helped. Once people got caught wind of it, they started doing the same thing. Because people on TikTok love sharing like the coolest hacks. Like, here's the coolest hack. Yeah. It will automate this. It will save you so much time. So that was April of last year. That's when Repurpose
made it.
It's different from everybody else. Number two, being extremely consistent, even when you don't want to, knowing that the mission, the message, the vision is bigger than you, and it's bigger than what you can imagine in the present moment. I always used to say, like, if we can get one listener a day, I'd be satisfied. And so we still have that same mindset. If we can get one new listener a day, even at this level where there's millions of people listening, if we can get one more, because that one more listener can hear the information that can change their life. And you can't discount that, and we never take that for granted. So we still have that same mindset. That's why we're so super consistent. And then double down, man. Double down. Well, our model used to be, and we took that from NIP, is all money in. And so any money we got was to help improve our deliverance, which was the audio, which was the visual, and which live events. And so we try to get as good as possible so that our presentation to our audience is something that's going to be remembered. Because we're not looking at this like, hey, we come to do a networking event in Toronto. We're like, no, somebody's going to document this as a piece of history when they talk about the health and the financial wellness of our community inside the city of Toronto. And so we take it very intentional, and we make sure that it's curated in a way that'll last forever.
I have a quick Toronto quiz for you. Yeah. What's your favorite Toronto slang word?
Now, look, when I came here in 2000, well, I've been here a couple times in the 90s, and I came back in the 2000s. I bought this T-shirt that said Toronto A or Canada A. I know y'all hate A.
A?
I know y'all had A. Yeah,
now it's like yeah. You gotta have a yeah in front of it.
What's my favorite one? I like cheese.
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 Yeah. That's one of them things. And I mean, I'm West Indian, so it feels like it's patois.
Yeah.
Like when I hear these guys talk like the man them and
the man
run them off and all these things, I'm like, okay, he's from Africa. I'm like, okay.
Yes.
That's a fact. Yeah.
It's so low.
But yo, when I was watching the Breakfast Club interview, you came up with the name Earn Your Leisure. Yeah. Like you told Rashad, let's call it Earn Your Leisure. I'm curious, what other names were you playing around with at the time? The options you had to name the brand that you're about to start.
Yeah, so at the time I wasn't thinking big brand. I was just thinking the name of a show. My title for the show was Dumb Rappers Need Teaching.
Dumb Rappers Need Teaching? Dumb Rappers Need Teaching.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It was a Biggie line. It was one of my favorite Biggie lines. I just like the double entendre of the word dumb and level of intelligence and the amount of people need teaching. Yeah. And then Shai was like, yeah, but we just don't want to be talking to rappers. And so his thing was money, power, respect. And then I was like, that's dope, but
a little cliche.
I'm thinking, a little cliche, but I think Puff, like, that was on the Locks album when they were on Bad Boy, and that was a Biggie line. So I'm sure Puff would have an issue with this. And so at the time, I had Earn Your Leisure in the tuck because he was creating a campaign for himself on social media, and he needed a hashtag. And I was like, perfect. The hashtag is going to be Earn Your Leisure. He hated it at first. It was using it, and people thought it was like a travel page. It was like Earn Your Leisure. So they started using it in their hashtags, and then when it came for us to create the show, it was something that was ours, it was original. We trademarked it. It was something that we could use. And so that's what it became. And the rest is history now.
What was that first episode, as you reflect, that was like that was the moment where things started rolling for us?
I think the first episode.
First episode.
Yes, that's the most important thing. It's like when people like, how do I do it? How do I do it? We tell them start. You'll figure some stuff out. Like we're flying a plane and we're building a plane at the same time. But the most important is the plane's in the air.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so we learned a lot from that pilot episode. And we got better for the second one. Got better for the third. Got for the fifth. By the sixth episode, we started putting it on YouTube. So now it wasn't just an audio experience; it was a visual experience. That's why when the gentleman asked me today about his podcast, I'm like, "No, you got a show. Why is it a show? Well, there's a visual component. When we think podcast, that's an audio experience. But we have a visual experience, so it's not just that. So it's a show. So we learned it from right away, and then probably around the 10th or 11th episode, social media started catching on. I mean, they knew what was happening, but some of the clips from those episodes started going really viral. And then it was like, who are these guys? Where do they come from? How did they get this message? Oh, we got to lock in with them. And then, again, once we started doing that added value, it was like, wait, this is a business. We got to create systems and structure to make sure that we're answering all those questions when it comes to how we're going to be running these things and how we're going to grow, how we're going to scale. We were able to do that, fortunately.
I started Black Foodie in 2015 after experiencing racism while eating out for my birthday. And that experience really changed me. It upset me. And I thought, why am I not going to Black-owned restaurants? Why had I not even considered celebrating my birthday at a Black-owned restaurant? So that question stuck with me. And it was particularly it was just running in my mind quite a bit because my family actually owned a restaurant when I was a kid, an Ethiopian restaurant in the 90s. And I thought, I, of all people, should be supporting Black restaurants. And if I'm not, and like my friends are not, there's something wrong here. We need to change this. And so I started sharing content online. First as a Facebook status. I don't know if you guys remember statuses, right? Yep. And then just...
those are the original tweets.
The original tweets, exactly. And then just, building a community on Instagram and Facebook and grew to other platforms and hosting events. And essentially it grew into a community. Now it's over 400,000 people, so close to 500,000 people that are a part of the Black Foodie community who love food.
What are some of the challenges that you've had when running an event, and what are some of the lessons you've learned that you can share with the audience?
So some of the challenges I think that I've had, and even still very frequently, is just the educational piece from the client. So the budgets that they're presenting are very Pinterest worthy or very, website worthy in terms of what they want, but they're not educated, quote unquote, on the industry to know what the pricing is. So it's, what they want versus what they're willing to put money into is vastly different. Some other challenges as well have been like competition. Although I'm very focused on what it is that I'm doing, to start as an event planner, it's not a large overhead. You don't need a lot of money to do it. Essentially, you need a laptop, and a couple of programs, and then you can be an event planner, So I found in the last few years, there's been an abundance of event planners coming out into the market and really trying to stay above that because they're focused on price and being low. And then the seasoned professionals, we're seasoned. So we have we actually have overhead. We have payroll, we have accountants, we have lawyers, we have, things that we have to account for that they don't. So the price is vastly different. Yeah. And I think another thing is really just really kind of staying true to your niche. How do you stay above that competition? How do you stand out above the rest? That's a challenge in itself because you're always evolving essentially as an event planner, right? And you want to try to make yourself remain a leader. I don't really like that word leader, but let's say remain a leader.
Stay on top.
Stay on top. That's it.
Why would you like leader?
Because I feel like everyone's capable of being a leader. And I feel like leader is just it signifies like one person. And I feel like there's many people that are on top and are doing great things. It doesn't necessarily have to be one person.
Gosh, it's almost like people have their own zones of genius.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's hard to call one person a leader when you have to default to someone else's leadership in their zone of genius.
We do have an idea board actually, which has been kind of a saving grace. So people come in, you can request features, and then other people can vote on them, and that helps us drive focus. Okay, I had 100 people want this feature. Let's see if A, is technically possible, and B, let's put effort on that. So we use that as kind of our guiding. And when anybody asks us for a feature, we say, hey, go to the feature board, request it there. And while you're there, look at the other features and upvote them if you like them. So And it actually works. We have like a ton of features, and then there's a whole bunch to have like, 150, 70 upvotes. So it's really helps us focus on what to build next.
That's actually very important because as entrepreneurs, you're consistently developing ideas, and having a bank of ideas where you can reference and then start upvoting what's the best thing to do is a great way of like having a storage bank. So people are continuously like editing, but coming up with the best idea.
People feel like owners of the product.
Yeah.
Like they actually like, I feel like I have equity in something that I actually imagined to make.
Yeah, and it's really cool because the system will automatically let you know if you requested a feature or you upvoted it. Once we release it, you'll get notified automatically. Say, hey, this feature just got released. So you, like you said, you feel like you're part of the process,
evolution.
Yeah, that's really interesting. One thing that you keep saying that I find really interesting is the customers are saying this, customers are saying that, right? How do you decipher between noise versus real solid customer feedback?
Yeah, it's tricky. The idea board is one of them. Idea board is just, we try to funnel everybody through the idea board. And so I feel like that's a good way of kind of filtering. Hey, if you're really serious about this, you'll take the 2 minutes to go in and click and leave your idea. If you're just ranting, you're gonna send me an email, say I want this feature, I'm gonna cancel if you don't build it. You probably you're gonna cancel anyways, probably, right? So funneling them there. Plus, it helps us organize. We sort by most popular votes. But yeah, I mean, I've always had this vision for Repurpose from the beginning. It's like this central platform that you can connect everything to it, and then you decide where your content goes. Send it from here to here, do this, convert the audio to video, back it up to Dropbox, whatever. You can do a million things. So you're in control. So it's like almost like the headquarters for your content. So if something comes in that doesn't align, or hey, can you add a button so we can live stream from Repurpose? That's not part of our
Ethos.
Our vision, right? Or so we filter those out. So it is tricky, especially in the beginning, because a lot of people just, I want this, I want that, and then I don't know. I feel like I want to help everybody, but we gotta. Now I'm learning to filter like okay. This is a good idea. Let's put it on the back burner. This is a great idea, but it's not technically possible. Like there's no way to do it. And then this is a okay idea. Let's wait. How many people upvote it? That will help us know if that's really worth building or not.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what was that moment for Repurpose where it hit like critical mass, where that you launched the platform, people were using it, but at this point things just really started like taking up and taking over, and it started becoming like, okay, this is Repurpose.io. You cannot live without it.
Yeah. So I think basically our TikTok integration, once we focus on short form content, because TikTok and other reels and shorts, they're all about 2 years ago. Well, a year and a half ago, we integrated TikTok into our platform. Before then, we were doing okay. We're cruising. We had all the features. And then we integrated that. And then I think I was telling you, Alex, a story. And once we integrated that feature, once I was got on TikTok, studied what a common problem is, and I figured out how we can fix it or automate it and Repurpose, I started going in and commenting on other people's videos. People will talk about, oh, look at this great way. You can go here, copy here, do this, you get the video without the watermark. And then I'd be like, wow, there's actually a more automated way. Try it for free. It's called Repurpose.io. And I was going in one video at a time and just commenting. I don't want to say spamming, because I don't think it was spam. I was still offering value. It's like, hey, this is another way of doing it. It's more automated.
You're doing things that don't scale.
Yeah, exactly. I was doing things that don't scale. But I think that really helped. Once people got caught wind of it, they started doing the same thing. Because people on TikTok love sharing like the coolest hacks. Like, here's the coolest hack that will automate this. It'll save you so much time. So that was April of last year. That's when Repurpose
made it.
I don't say made it. It entered a new
stratosphere
dimension.
In addition to that, like people don't, because it's a social thing, they don't understand the business behind. And that's where, respectfully, I think that knowing that we had something the business hat came on very quickly. So it went from like oh, this is a cool hobby to a very strategic thing for us very quickly. And this was my thought partner. So we gonna get into the business and the economics behind it. I'm with you. I know we're here. We have to give you a little bit of context, but like we get to the business.
Let's do it. All right. Yeah. So speaking of the business, one thing you mentioned on Morgan DeBond's podcast, shout out The Journey, is that you recognize that you had a strategic opportunity with partnerships as well as going city to city. Break that down. Like, what was the thought process there?
So when she mentioned we had bad parties, it was like in that time, right? So we were saving for our wedding. Things were going well. We went from a $5 per head model that we got at this initial venue and then maxed out at 75-person capacity to like a free before model. And then we charge, $10. And then when the party felt full, charge $20, trying to get some type of bar percentage back. So that was just kind of how we made our money. One would be good. And we're like, okay, let's do it again. That one will be bad. And if you don't hit your $20,000 bar guarantee, wasn't 20 at that point, but your $5,000 bar guarantee, the bar made $2,500, you got to pay $2,500. And so seeing the ebbs and flows of that, doing something in one location, it was two learnings that came out of that. It was like, A, don't oversaturate. You never want to be the event that people feel like they can miss. So if you do have to be in one market, you need to be giving people something new, something unique in the way that they want to come back to. And that they want to put on that special fit that they say.
Listen, the more subscribers we have, the better the guests get. So please hit subscribe. Let's get back into the show.
I always say, when you see Charles, you see the Blavity House party, that outfit that you got that you just waiting to wear, that's the event that I want you to be able to wear it to. So it was that. And then secondarily, from a touring perspective, it was clear that, again, if you have to do it frequent, you hit other markets. Because as soon as we started doing this and we were using social to our advantage, IG, Snapchat, etc., all of the people in Chicago, Facebook, etc., we were doing Facebook posts. We had a Facebook page. When are you doing one in Chicago? When are you doing one in Chicago? And I said, oh my God, there's an appetite for this outside of our
little bubble,
our initial market. Again, risks, financial risks. And because we realized that we wanted to do this, it was never an appetite for me to quit my job and do this full time, because we were taking actual money from out of our account to finance this. What I realized about the experience is that it was unique, and what we were building needed to have some level of consistency if we toured. So that meant paying for 5 flights. That meant, especially if you all are going to line to this, the output of like our post recaps, our digital marketing, our fly. I wanted all of that to feel the same. So I flew out my same photographers. I flew out my same videographers. I didn't want it to feel different for anybody. I wanted my recap to feel the same. Never wanted booty shaking in my recap. I need my guy who knows how to show that it was a good time so that people in the other markets, as we're going and expanding, want to be a part of it. So it was a very strategic thing. And so it wasn't like a profit driver for us. We got through the wedding, which was like July. We started this in like February. But after that, it was okay, let's focus on building and not making money. And so we were just like constantly reinvesting. We would do one, some would be good. Then we moved to the Bay. And then the Bay one was bad, but we got a new listserv there. Then we were like, let's try in Atlanta. And so we were building like opportunistically some different listserv and like, pardon me, I want to block your face. Building up some followings in these areas. And then the brands start to be like, oh, can you do an event for us in Atlanta? Can you do an event for us in Chicago? Have you ever done an event on the West Coast? Actually, yes, I did one in the Bay. Granted, it didn't go too well. They don't know that. But I did it. But I do it. So can you market it? Absolutely, I can. And then I started getting checks from brands where bar revenue didn't matter. You didn't need to charge a ticket. They're giving you 50% upfront before you even walk inside the door. And that's when I said, oh, I like this. This feels right to me.
I was always confused that we couldn't get funding. Looking back on it now, I think we were actually 1 year too late. I think that because we were about a year behind Chef's Plate. So Chef's Plate was sort of like Canada's darling child for D2C food, right? And I think at the time it was called B2C, right? So like business to consumer.
That's right.
Yeah, so
B2C was the thing before. Now it's D2C.
Exactly. So they had raised, I think in total, like $10 million, and maybe we're doing 50 million in revenue. I'm totally pulling these numbers out of my ass, so fact check it. But they were the ones that were paving the way in Canada off the coattails of companies like Blue Apron in the US that at their peak were in the multi-billion-dollar valuation. So a lot of the VCs had already diversified into D2C food, right? At the time, once again, about a year or two late. And also they were starting to see some cracks in the armor of the meal kit industry. So insanely high acquisition cost, brutal retention, and it started spooking the D2C VC investors. Now, I felt like we were still okay because and to this day, you can always go look online, go look at it. The number one thing that we've always done on True Local is that we've had a bespoke customer experience. Like when you come to True Local, you're getting that white glove service. And once again, that's a huge testament to the team. So when you look at our retention numbers, like these aren't just like random bullshit. Oh, I'm going to skew this, skew that. Take our numbers for retention and chop them up any way you want in however any other company is calculating their churn or whatever it might be. And we were just like best in class. So our average order values were higher than the industry average. The amount of boxes that people would order in a year was higher. And the lifetime value of our customers were through the roof. So I thought that we had enough to go and raise based on that. But you know the way VCs are, they're birds of a feather. If those VCs are spooked, these VCs are spooked. So everyone was kind of on the sidelines waiting to get into the food business. So
one thing that you just mentioned is the standard that your team had when it comes to having that white glove service, right? And I was listening to a lot of entrepreneur podcasts and talking to entrepreneurs throughout our show. I'm noticing a consistent trend of setting a specific standard and being somewhat of a tyrant to make sure that gets set. Can you break that down? Like what standards did you set?
Yeah, for sure. So for us, and I'll dive deep on this with anybody on any time because I think the narrative out there right now is that if you have a shitty business, the thing that you're marketing is, oh, we have great customer service. Like if you think about it, every website you go to, we got the best customer service. But then you go check the reviews or you look at the retention, it doesn't match up. So when I say that customer service, aka we call it consumer experience, was the most important part of the business, like I really mean it, and I'll dive in on it in a million and one different angles. But the reason this came about was when I was looking at the space, we didn't have a lot of money compared to the rest of people. So I couldn't go and spend on getting the most professional looking content or building the most beautiful website. But one thing that's free is giving people a great experience. At the end of the day, like picking up that damn phone, calling them up. How did it go? Hey, no problem. This got messed up. That got messed up. I got that covered. I'll drop the box off myself. Don't worry about it. Respond to emails within an hour. Actually, these are things that when you're an underdog, that's the difference because the big guys aren't doing that. They take all their customers for granted. They take all of the retention for granted. They think that just because of the big players, they're going to get everything. And we just identified that early on. And then in terms of the standard, it was like, this is our only competitive advantage in the early years. So everything we do needs to revolve around this. And so I spearheaded that just early on, getting it started and kind of setting sort of what the expectation needed to be. And then luckily our first employee, Irma, so the director of consumer experience at True Local, took that and just ran with it. And I always say, I'm like, obviously I'm biased, but she is the number one person when it comes to the consumer experience. So she would come up with all the initiatives, would come up with how we wanted to make our customers feel special. She then also managed the customer service team members and was diving in on that. In terms of standards, like if you think about it, to this day, we still have handwritten notes in all of our boxes. I think that might change soon. Obviously, different. I'm heading out at the end of the year, and we've got some turnover. But that was something that was the most important thing. Was in the early days we could do handwritten boxes or handwritten notes. The customers that got them loved it. So what we get big, we're going to stop doing it? That makes no sense. Yeah. So we're setting the standard, and those are the type of things that we are not going to compromise on.
Do you have like someone who's like main job is just to write notes? Because how many boxes are you sending a day?
A lot. Exactly. So shout out to I know what's happening right now in the warehouse. Shout out to the True Local fulfillment team, packing boxes, writing notes. But it's important. And, I always joke about it too, but, people always talk about, what's important with the acquisition and is it this, is it that? And I'm like, listen, I truly felt like if I just kept working, I was going to reach this position one day. So that wasn't a surprise, but the most value I got out of it was that even though you have this confidence, so to your point, chasing your purpose, are you getting closer or further from your purpose? That builds your confidence. Even if you're the most confident person on the planet, until you achieve that purpose, you're like 99% confident. because deep down there are a lot of people telling you you're doing the wrong thing. And even though you might not let it shine through or make it influence your actions too much, deep down, you always are wondering, like, there is that thing where it's like, okay, you're the real deal. And the thing that the selling the company, and so as we were building the company, there's a lot of things that people told us we shouldn't do this, do that. And there were a lot of times where I'd pick a different option that I felt was the right one, but I was like, fuck, this better work out. The thing about selling the company was that it gave me the ultimate conviction in knowing that my gut was right. So the things that we did go down, the path that we did go down, it's like, wow, you could never want to change it. Never want to change a damn thing. You know, could some things have been done better? Probably. Could some things have been done faster? Maybe. Could some things have been done bigger? Potentially. But you think I'm going to roll the dice again and be like, oh, if I just done that one thing different? No, like the outcome we got is the best thing in the world. So just maintaining standards and doing that, I think was a huge part of what we got out of it at the end.
Of what built it. You know, I think, shout out to Candicia, our past podcast guest, she asked the question, how do you scale the company? I think that's actually one of the main answers to that, is having set standards. Now, was there like a guidebook that you created? Like, I would love to get into the nitty gritty. So like, that's one thing that we're noticing as well as you're hiring editors, as you're creating like our business at scale, maintaining quality, something that we really are, excited to do. So I'd love to get more answers from that.
So yeah, so I think one thing is that there's a big difference between growing your company and scaling your company. I think a lot of founders gotta, especially if you're gonna go talk to VCs and things like this, like you gotta know the terminology because VCs will sniff that out real quick. So you listen, growing a company is one thing, right? And aggressively growing your company is also something, but that's not necessarily scaling. Scaling a company is you are getting bigger while becoming more efficient. That's scaling a company. So it's like scaling, let's say, Facebook ads, okay? You got a $10,000 a month budget, and let's say you got a $100 cost per acquisition. So you spend $10,000, you're gonna get customers for $100. Anybody can go and jump that $10,000 up to $20,000. Anybody can do that. It's not growing, it's not scaling. But typically what will happen is your cost per acquisition is gonna go up to like $200 as well, or $250, or it's gonna go even higher. Because now you're starting to saturate, you're pushing things past the breaking point, and you're not doing it in a systematic, thoughtful way. You're just growing. Scaling would be taking that $10,000, bringing it up to $20,000 while maintaining a $100 cost per acquisition. That's just a very micro example of that, but you look at it with cost of goods, right? So as your company is growing, you should be able to reduce your cost of goods, the economies of scale. When it comes to recruiting and hiring, the bigger you're getting, you should become more efficient and save money on it. So that's the thing that a lot of founders need to understand. Growing your company, there's nothing wrong with growing your company, but just make sure when you use the word scaling with people that are trying to establish your level of business acumen, you got to make sure that you know the difference between, look, I'm looking to grow my company and I need money to go do that, or are you looking to scale your company? So that's like the one thing I noticed. So in terms of tips, man, I wish I had something. I had no business school background, no classes, no nothing. I didn't know anything. All I did was decide that I wanted to do it, and then just take every punch straight to the face, and then somehow get back up.
Pretty much.
Luckily, though, this book, True Founder, this is the one. This is the book that I wish that I had whenever I was getting started.
Yeah, let's get into that, man. Like writing a book. Like, what inspired to write the book?
I never thought about writing a book. I'm not a huge writer, obviously. C's get degrees kind of type of guy, but I'm a huge note taker. So I have this massive. So I'm not a writer, but I'm an avid note taker. So any idea that I ever get, I write down into my reminders, just quick point form, and then probably once a week, I'll take that idea and extrapolate it or expand on it in like Evernote or whatever, and I build it out and I just leave it in it, just collects dust, digital dust. So I've honestly probably got like hundreds of pages of just random notes. So when the company sold, actually Forbes reached out. So the funny thing about this is this almost never happened because it was in my junk mail, and the like Forbes junk mail thing, like, oh, hey, it's Forbes or whatever, like subscribe for
when you click on subscribe, you're like, whatever.
I know, I'd subscribe. So when I saw it, I just, for whatever reason, I opened it and it was like, hey, listen, like this is actually Forbes and we want to talk to you about a book. And I thought it was just a junk, but I'm like, you know what, let's just take a chance and send a message back. So hopped on a call with Forbes, and they educated me on the fact that they do publishing, which I didn't know, and they accept 60 authors a year to publish a book for. So we started talking, and they're like, look, we did the background check. You just sold the company. This, like you got a story here for sure. You're 31, 30 at the time. Like, what do you want to do? So, went probably for about a month going back and forth chatting with them and decided to pull the trigger on it. And that's kind of where True Founder was born, even though at the time we had no idea what the hell we were going to call it. And it started becoming this ridiculous exercise of how do you structure a book. And for me, because I was on a 2-year contract still with True Local was always my focus, right? But at the same time, True Local was growing. We were bringing in new people. It was going to be handed off eventually. So it was kind of like, okay, well, what can I do to kind of stay sharp during this time as well? So my nights and weekends were filled with writing a book, which was very timely because now that things are moving on, this is the main focus. So early on in the process, I was thinking more about doing a story. I was like, okay, sweet, I'm going to do a story about my life, the whole
door
high school
knocking,
thing.
everything like that,
all that
football.
stuff.
Lululemon.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Lululemon, all that stuff. But the thing that ended up happening was that as I was writing all of it out and going through these life experiences, I realized that I didn't have the skill at least to tie back the learnings that I got during those times, considering I only realized the learning aspect of it at a later date. So for example, just being this asshole kid in high school and then deciding to flip that around and dedicate, my life to this purpose of playing football. I didn't know how to tie that back to this big giant learning because I only learned that, 10 years later that's how significant it was. So where I'm going with this is that the idea of doing just a story really wasn't panning out. And then on the other hand, it was also, look, I'm 30, man. Like I'm just getting started. For me, I've always been saying this. I'm like, I don't know what my purpose is moving forward, but I can tell you right now, like True Local is the stepping stone in the sense of this is where I get my feet wet. This is where I can show everybody what I'm capable of doing. This is to try to show that, listen, man, like with a great vision, an amazing team, a dedication, a purpose, you can go and build something great. But this is, to tee up what's next. So I started being like, I don't really want to share too much of my story yet because it's still being written. So then it went to, okay, who is this even for? So I don't like the idea of the story. Who is this even for? And I was struggling a lot because I was thinking about my peers reading this. I was thinking about executives reading this. I was thinking about VCs reading this. I was thinking about founders reading this. I was thinking about high school kids. And of course, you're starting to try to build something for everybody, right? And everybody knows if you're building a business and you're trying to build something for everybody, you build nothing for nobody. So then it was like, oh my God. Now it's like 3 months into the process. I got a year to do this. I've pretty much nothing after 3 months. And it kind of just hit me like a rock. I'm like, write a book for yourself. Like write a book for who you were when you needed it the most. And then I'm like, okay, well, that would have been when I just started True Local and I was a first-time founder. And everything just opened up and it became so clear that this book needed to be exclusively for first-time founders. And first-time founders are anything from someone thinking about quitting their job to start a business all the way through to being 4 years into their business and they're just still figuring it out as they go. And once that became clear, man, the book wrote itself, honestly. And it
just flowed out of you.
It flowed because then I went back through all my notes and it was all the teachings and the learning. So it became, instead of being this story-based thing where I'm this character and going through all this, it was, no, this is a tactical guide. And I will sprinkle in my life experiences to help show some of the points. And really all of the experiences that I share are to show that, like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like there are so many mess ups that it's like none of this was planned. This all just came from this determination. So that's where it came from. 16 chapters, pretty much just going through everything that I think is important for first time founders to know, or anybody that what they want to know from someone who's just recently done it.
Yeah. And what's your favorite chapter? Like when you look at the 16, which one, like, would you say this was my favorite to write? And I think it's going to have a major impact on the founder reading it.
It's a good question.
So yeah, I think it's two different things. My favorite one versus the one that has the most value. I think the one that has the most value, and it's a sleeper because I think you'd look at the chapter and be like, oh, that's cool. I can't wait to get there. But I do a chapter on working with agencies. So dev houses, marketing agencies, all that. Because when I talk to founders, that like obviously we get calls all the time. People, hey, can I pick your brain on this? Can I pick your brain on that? And I've dealt with so many founders that are looking to bring an agency on for the first time, and the questions. It's like, should I use an agency? Should I hire in-house? How do I negotiate the contract with an agency? And I've been burned by agencies before, and every founder has also. So I have a very specific way that I work with agencies, and it's served me well now at this point, and I wanted to put that in there. So like literally how to negotiate agency contracts, how to decide whether or not you should use an agency. Should you hire in-house? Should you hire to bring someone in-house? Should you not? How to keep agencies accountable. That to me is the chapter that believe it or not, will probably have the most takeaway value from for founders. But my favorite chapter writing was one of the mindset. So that's a tangible chapter. To me, it was one of the mindset chapters, which was being a first-time founder is all about being a professional problem solver. So forget what you think about your titles. Forget about, oh, I'm a CEO, oh, I'm a CTO, I'm a president, I'm a head of sales. No, you ain't none of that shit. Your job as a first-time founder is to be a professional problem solver. That's it. The better you become at realizing that all your job is, you exist to just solve problems, no matter how big or small, and no matter what department it's in, the sooner you figure that out, the way easier your life is going to be as a first-time founder. So that's some of the tactical stuff in the book. But really the whole book is this uncompromising explanation that work-life balance is a joke, in my opinion, especially for a first-time founder. If you're at where you want to be in life and things are good and rosy, so maybe you got a 9-to-5 that you're excited about, you've got a career plan that works for you, or you're already hyper successful and you've got resources, yeah, of course, take your foot off the gas, enjoy life a little bit, find some balance. But when you're a first-time founder, means you probably had no money, you've put all of it into the business, you've asked friends and family to join you on the journey, either financially or to help you. You are pretty much chasing this life's purpose and life's goal. Like, how dare you think, in my opinion, that this should be easy and comfortable? Let's go back to LeBron. Like, when you look at a pro athlete who sacrifices everything in their life to spend more time in the gym, more time hooping, more time going to camps, more time finding different leagues. When you look at a billboard artist who takes every last dollar they have, they skip paying rent and instead use that money to go to the studio. Even like academics, like you look at someone who wants to go do a PhD for like 10 years and they give up starting a life, starting a family, doing all the stuff to be 100%, actually like 120% full tilt chasing that goal. We reward them and we say, oh my God, you're so dedicated and you're amazing. And I wish I was that committed. But if it's a founder, oh man, you work too hard. Like you shouldn't work that. You need more work-life balance. And that to me is ridiculous. So this book is for anybody out there who is either thinking about starting a business or starting a business and feels like they're underwater and feels like, oh my God, like this shit is hard, this shit is heavy. It's a lot easier to go through that knowing it was supposed to be hard and knowing it was supposed to be heavy, and everybody out there in the same position feels that same way. That's a lot easier than always having people in your ear saying, you work too much. If we could take some time off, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Right. If we didn't have to keep pushing that boulder up the hill, would we not? We don't do it for fun. We do it because this is the self-imposed struggle and responsibility that we have taken on with the hopes of living a better life.
Yeah.
We chose to do that. No one's forcing us to do it. So this book is, I just want to start dispelling that stuff.
What do you say to those people who say, oh, mental health this, burnout this, da-da-da-da-da-da? Because that's a big thing in our culture, especially entrepreneurship culture. So with this mindset of saying, screw that work-life balance, you got to grind it all. Like, we're on the hustle over everything podcast right now. You got to hustle, right? What do you say to those people who bring that narrative up that you're going to burn out and it's not fun?
I hope they're my competitors. Like, let's go into the same industry. Like if that becomes the norm, then I think we're really in a lot of trouble from an innovation perspective, because it's hard, man, and stuff is not supposed to be easy. So the thing that I would say to that is, look, you know yourself, okay? If you feel like you're on that cusp, do what's best for you. To me, it's more about the outside narrative and the outside input, that it should be normalized and that it should be easier. That's what gets me. So, and I talk about it in the book. I talk about, like, if you want to talk about burnout, there are ways to, like, and that's like a whole thing in and of itself. So, like, once again, if you want to avoid burnout and you have to be full tilt, first of all, be realistic in how long it's going to take. Minimum 5 years. You should be willing to commit minimum 5 years to this. If you know that right off the bat, you're already in a better position than someone who's like, I'll give it a shot for a year and see what happens. Because then when that year becomes 2 years and 3 years, they're already stressed. They're already like, oh my God, this is longer than I thought. Then it goes back into this idea of, do you have a purpose? That is, if you have a purpose and you're chasing a purpose, you realistically, like, that's going to give you all the energy you need to keep going when you're at that limit, right? And you've got to find a way to stay motivated for as long as possible. So that's where your purpose is going to come in. But then on top of that too, to avoid burnout, I have this huge opinion that you need to start finding wins in the small things. So let's say you live a comfortable life, typical 9 to 5, everything is good, nothing wrong with that. The way that you live your life is you kind of look for these big milestones that happen maybe like 4 times a year. a birthday, a holiday, a raise, maybe you buy a new car, buy a house. You know, these like large things. Okay, I just had my birthday. Woo, was excited for that. I got a vacation in 4 months, right? And typically, you know, you got your energy levels, and your energy levels kind of like dwindle down and they bounce back up whenever you do something you like. And, you know, they dwindle down and they bounce back up. So what ends up happening is that doesn't work as a first-time founder, because when you're chilling, doing your 9 to 5 normal life, you don't get put into situations that stress you out as much. Like, you're not in this self-imposed kind of thing. So your energy levels can stay fairly high until you get this next big milestone, like a birthday or whatever it might be, and then it bounces back up. Well, as a first-time founder, you're getting kicked in the face every single day. Your energy levels are so goddamn low all the time that if you go to zero, that's when you get to a burnout. And I feel like if you were to try to be a founder and use that same sort of, okay, I'm just going to refill my tanks on the next big win, you won't make it, because you won't make it 3 months of just declining energy. It's not going to happen. Like, if you keep just going straight down for 3 months, you're not going to make it to the 3rd month, to the 4th month and have that big win. Maybe it's a financing or an investment or something like that. So I talk about how, look, you got to reframe that, and you got to start sucking water from a stone, in the sense that you need to find energy in the small wins. So how do you stay positive at the end of the day, and when the whole world around you is on fire? So in my opinion, it's, you know, if you wake up on time, okay, don't just like brush that off. Like, when you're running a business and you're doing all your stuff and you've got team to manage and you've got personal life and all this, like, you woke up on time, high five, tiny little boost of energy. Congratulations, you did it. Okay. Then you look at the next thing. Okay, I ate my healthy breakfast, or whatever diet or whatever you're doing. You did this next thing. Okay, great, sweet. Congratulations, you did that. Then you made it to the gym in the morning. Okay. In my opinion, finding little minor energy boosts from that keeps you going. And what it also does is it creates this momentum for you to crush the goals throughout the day. Because if you woke up in the morning and you slept in already, what are the odds of you then doing the things you need to do during that day? You're already at a disadvantage. Whereas if you've done 3 of these things that you know, part of your routine, and you know that there's a chance that you might not do them, but if you do them, okay, well, then you're more likely to do the next one, and you're more likely to do the next one. So you woke up early, high five, great. Well, now I need to go to the gym because I woke up early. This is great. Oh yeah, I made it to the gym. Well, now I worked out and woke up early. Great. Okay, I'm gonna eat a healthy breakfast. Shit, yeah, I did these 3 things. You know what? I am gonna tackle my emails on time. Wow, now I did that too. You're just building these wins. So at least that way, when a bomb blows up by noon, you're at least kind of got a little bit of energy in the tank that you're going. So I elaborate more on it in the book, but to me, it's important to kind of think about.
And as you reflect and bet too, when you look back and you're like, damn, I did this, I did that, I did that. I've had moments like that too. Like, I worked out in the morning, got the pump. You know, that's the hardest thing, is like getting that lift, because you procrastinate so much, and then you're like, I already worked out 3 times this week. I don't need to hit my 4th workout. And then that workout, when it comes along, it just feels such like a dread, and I hate it. So I'm gonna start celebrating those like small wins too.
Yeah, it's just like, once again, that to me is self-care.
Yeah,
right. Like, that to me is the self-care. It's not so much about, and I don't advocate for this like Elon Musk style, like, run yourself into the ground.
Like, wake up at like 4. You see those CEOs who wake up at 4:30 in the morning or 4 o'clock.
I was doing 5 a.m. for a while.
But you know, the thing is, it's like, do what works for you. That's the thing, right?
That's exactly.
There's this whole standard, like, oh yeah, like, yo, like, the CEO wakes up at 4:30, like, they're working out, they've done yoga, they've done meditation. I'm like, how do they operate like this? And then it's like this pressure as an entrepreneur to operate like this person, because that's who you aspire to be. But you can find your own way of success in just what works the best for you at that stage of your life or career. But you're still going to get results, but it brings you happiness at the same time. It's just not trying to fit yourself in a mold of what a CEO is.
That's exactly it. And of course, like, you know, you want to look at people that have done it and think that those same skills are going to translate well to you. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't. Like, there are so many night owls, right? Like, how many people just absolutely crush it at night?
Yeah.
You know, well, that's the complete opposite of waking up early. So it's not so much about following what they do, but the thing that I would highly recommend is a routine. And for me, that helped a lot. Like, when you're in the trenches grinding, and like a year feels like it becomes like a month, like, because you're just doing the same thing, pushing the same boulder, having a routine is a really, really good way to just stay sane and just kind of settle into like this thing. It's kind of like when you're running, right? Like, you know, you you look at runners, they kind of settle into this groove after the pain. Like, okay, they were like hurting for a while, but then they just kind of settle in. That's where you want to be, is in that zone. So, you know, to the point with the mental health, listen, I think the way that you put it is the best way. You got to do what works for you. But I also think that we got to start talking more that, like, look, life isn't fair. It's not going to be fair. It's not supposed to be fair. And the only thing that matters to me when I'm thinking about this whole idea of, okay, work-life balance is, if you know that life isn't fair, who has an increased chance of making it in business? It's the person that can do it for the longest and operate at the highest possible level for the longest period of time. So for some people, maybe that's like, you know what, I grind it out hard for, 4 months, then I take a week off. For some people, maybe it's like I grind it out at a mediocre pace for a year and then take my weekends off. It could be whatever you want, but find what works for you so that you can keep putting the effort out there and keep producing in a way that makes it so you're competitive